Hi. Hi, so we are going to talk about Baulkham Hills. We did an audit using the walkability checklist, and this audit was to help us understand the sustainability in our area, socially, economically, and environmental, and what is available. And this was done in my home area, which is Baulkham Hills, and this is a suburban area in the Hills Shire Council. Why this suburb matters to me is mostly because it's a place where I come from, and excuse me, it's something that I really love and I am proud of really. Um, so there's a growing sub Bockham Hills is a growing suburban community in the Hill Shire. Mostly has older adults, families, and commuters. As urbanization continues to increase, the neighborhood displays an important role in promoting health, reducing chronic disease. How has this happened? We shall continue to see. This is the area that was covered in my area. As you can see, it is mostly green, which is good, especially for the fresh air and having a lot of green spaces, which help in oxygen and quality of air. This place is made up of both workspaces and roads that do not have workspaces. In the first picture, we see that cars are parked, can be parked on either side, but most times you find people walking on the grass. So the walkability is a little bit good. However, it is hard for people who are cycling, maybe people who are walking their roads as well. I mean, sorry, their dogs as well. And also difficult for maybe the elderly who might be needing a wheelchair. However, we do have some areas, like on the right, that have pavements that are accessible for people to use with wheelchairs, although they are a bit rough, but at least they can be used by people with wheelchairs and cyclists. The only challenge is that they are not labeled, so this causes a harm and danger to these people. People who could, especially mothers, for example, who are carrying babies in their prams or elderly who might need to take a walk using a walker. The fact that these walk lines are not smooth, it is a danger to them. And we will later on see that Baulkham Hills is really made up of so many elderly community who would really appreciate like a smooth walking space. Audit. While doing this audit, I do appreciate that there are a lot of workspaces. On the left is a path that connects one street to another, and this path ideally is actually between the nursing home that we have in the area, that's Baptist Care, and the main road to the shops. So I thought that this was such a good alternative because that means the elderly do not have to go to the place where there is commotion of traffic. They could just go through this lane. So this ensures their safety. The lane is mostly shaded by the trees in the neighborhood, but there isn't much of a shed, which might prove as a problem, especially during the harsh weather conditions. And maybe when it's rainy, someone would not have where to stop, and this might get slippery and also affect the elderly. However, we also do notice that on the paths there are several signs that are put up, and these are to help people know the direction of where people might be going, or maybe for people who are driving to slow down, or even give a warning of what is happening, hence protecting the people that live in the area. On my afternoon walk, I also noticed that the paths are enough for two people to be able to walk on. So that means it allows enough access for two people to walk. The only trouble might be if there is a cyclist, one might end up being pushed into the grass, or when there are people with like the walkers, as earlier mentioned, or things like that, that would really give them hard time. But when you consider the um public transport, we find that most of the bus stops, we have two bus stops, those going towards Castle Hill, which is the next biggest center, uh, suburb next to Baulkham Hills that has the great shopping malls and much busier, and also access to the metro and other buses. And we also have the buses going to Parramatta. So those are the two close suburbs. We do realize that most of the bus stops have shade, so that is good, especially for rain or harsh weather conditions. But sadly, there are some that do not. These weren't many, but we found that there were some that I found that there were some that do not have the space. And this is dangerous, especially for the elderly mostly, and for maybe families, given that these areas are areas that are family infested. That means it's difficult in such harsh conditions. It might not protect them as well as it should. And also, the waiting times of the buses is long, impacting the health a little bit more than it should. But the bus stops are labeled, the bus times are labeled, which gives people information on how and when to move. My community, though small, is well aligned. Um, it is beautifully labeled. You find that all the roads have their labels, which shows you what is where. But in a special way, it also has a small grocery store where you can get your fresh food, or you can get your fresh meat, fresh baked goods, which is very important. Remember, because we have a lot of families, so that means there is more accessibility to balanced meals, balanced diets. There's also a junk store, so sort of the food covers all age groups, all dietary needs, which is very good. And then also given that they're elderly, it sort of gives like a one-stop place where you can come and just have everything you need, and you wouldn't have to go into the big malls or big centers. It is something you can have just by being there. And this is good also because within the harsh weather conditions, there is a place where you can actually go and grab a bite without having to walk so far. So these places can be accessed through bus stops, because every bus stop is about a 3 or 5 minute walk from the other. So for the elderly, they can use buses to get there, or they can even walk. And they have paths, especially to the shops, which is good, that are well demarcated, well labeled. This area has parking for cars, so at least if someone is coming with a wheelchair or something like that, it's also conducive for them, which is pretty good. Now, as earlier mentioned, Baulkham Hills is very loved by most families because of its good environment. So, just adjacent to the shops is this beautiful McBurney Reserve. So, McBurney Reserve has been set up as a small reserve for probably small families. So, you have some swings, you have a water source right there. So, that means there is a clean water source that people can come to if it's harsh conditions. Sometimes it gets very hot, and you also have seats where mothers can come and chat, or the elderly can chat, and it's sort of under trees. It doesn't have a shed, which means it is quite difficult, for example, if it's raining. But the fact that it's mostly covered by trees makes it a bit cooler than the areas around it. It also has like waste bins put up, so that means rubbish collection is good and protected. um, so another reserve I went to was the TED reserve. So it has two in one. So it has a tennis court, which is like for recreation, and you have families coming to play together. You find families in the morning, in the afternoon, which is good bonding and building social bonds, but also helping in mental health, especially when families gather together. But you realize that this reserve is also sometimes where people go to take walks. So it is promoting a physical activity. The good roads are promoting physical activity. The easy accessibility is promoting physical activity, which is really good, and really helpful. The only challenge is the shed is a bit limited. So if the weather conditions are harsh, it might be very difficult to work with. In my small continued walk, I also found the Armenia Baptist Care, which is a residential home for the elderly. This shows you that this environment is pretty conducive for people to rest. It's mostly quiet. I did not meet many people while I was on the street. I met a few people who were probably walking their dogs, and a few mothers who are having chats with their babies in the pram. So it is a place where you realize that there is safety and sense of belonging. Just adjacent to the Ted Reserve is the Bochum Hills Sports Club. I did not get a chance to go there, But in the event that the elderly would like a place they could go to do any other activity, which is good. So this is helpful because it reduces consequences or risks of mental depression or sadness and improves social interaction. It improves mental well-being, reduces obesity because the environment alone, the coolness and the breeze and the views encourage people to actually want to walk more, have more physical activity done, which is really, really good for them. I also noted that there's so many reserves that I didn't get to go to. Like there's the Excelsior Reserve that I hope to go to sometime, but also the diversity of people shows that there is increased diversity of foods, of meals, and this is also really good. There could be some this so the trees also help with management of the storm water just in case, and it also helps to reduce the heat, especially during extensive heat weathers. And Baulkham Place is a place you would love to be. It has fair enough transport system. I do believe the transport system desires a little bit more, but it is conducive for the elderly, for families. It is a home away from home. Summary, as a growing suburb, we do believe that healthy neighborhoods are created through planned urban planning and through the walking, regardless of all the beautiful things we have noticed, we realize that there is a pedestrian risk of injury because there are no pedestrian crossing sites. Um, in the event of heavy weather storms, there is no protection. Um, for the elderly or the school children, there is no proper direction on the pavement, so which could lead to loss and also being harmed as well. And maybe it would be helpful to have some more community centers in the area. For example, maybe some church areas or some places where people can sit more together and be able to have a chat as well. Um, in the event of increased heat waves, it would be nice to have more shades set up enough for people to be able to, rest. Also, more water sources because in all between that space that I walked in, there was only one water resource. Maybe an increment in transport because I do appreciate that most people might be using private means. However, given the environment, school children, school going children, elderly, there is actually more need for public transport or at least making roads safe enough for cyclists or people using walkers or people using prams, which would be, excuse me, very helpful for their health. In short, this tool was quite useful actually. It was easy to use. It covered multiple health domains. It was low cost. The only limitation is that it only captures one point in a time. It does not measure seasonal variation and it does not include residents' perceptions. Other tools that I found that might be helpful are the News Neighborhood Environment Walkability Scale, MAPS, which is a measures pedestrian MAPS Global, which measures pedestrian infrastructure in greater detail, Walk Score, Australian Urban Observatory, among others. So these ones are able to provide data on walkability, livability, green space, transport, social infrastructure, and this can be very good. So my recommendation would be an increase of street canopy to improve heat resilience, install more shaded sitting areas, of course, along walking routes or even in the reserves, improve cycling infrastructure, improve pedestrian crossings and labeling of the paths as well, improve um, more improvement in the public transport, and then perhaps expand the community gardens to be much better. Thank you.